All right. So, hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Um,
Hello.
would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. My name is Michael Patrick, and I live in Bergen County.
And what is your relationship to the LGBT community?
I am gay, and I've identified as being gay for a long, long time. I'm married to a man, and he also, of course, is gay. And we have two kids, neither of which are gay.
Okay. And so the reason of this whole project is to ask people like yourself, what do you think about the fact that Bergen County doesn't have a resource center, an LGBT resource center? Excuse me. And do you think there's a need? And could you speak to that?
Well, first of all, I'm really surprised because we are an affluent county, and we are just outside of New York City. So, we pride ourselves about having services for a lot of other kinds of communities and groups. So I'm just surprised that I thought there was a center. I don't have personal need of it, but I know that there are gay people, trans people, bi people in the county. I know them, I met them, et cetera. So I am surprised that there isn't a center. I did when I was younger, much younger, during college. Before I came out to my family, I was really struggling and to find the community, understand the community, and I went to San Diego State. And somebody told me that there was a LGBT center in downtown, and so I went, and I ended up being going there several nights a week. It was kind of social, it was informative. They had a lot of agendas, and it was kind of an anchoring place for me. It kind of helped me ground myself, and it was very affirmative. So it was very affirming of my life and my orientation. So it gave me confidence to do better at school and better at work. So the center for me, when I was 19, um, that center for me did a lot of good. I think that um, if you think about that, I don't know if we need a building or a center that's physical, but I do think that there are people in need that identify in the LGBT community that would really value a kind of a central place for them to ask questions and be invited in and those kinds of things. So yeah, I think it would be important in some form to have that resource available to the LGBT community.
Awesome. Thank you. And so having that experience and seeing the use of having something like that and how it impacted your life, what do you think the lack of it is impacting our community as a whole?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I think I would have. It's you're unmoored, right? You don't know if other people are around that are gay, and you don't know how to identify. You could get into trouble because you identify them, and they're not part of the community, and they get angry with you, and it could lead to physical violence. Yeah, and then the other people, the people in religious circles or education circles or law enforcement, if they aren't trained or they don't really know and have the kind of sensitivity to the sorry, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, that community has very specific needs, and it's layered onto the work environment, education, et cetera. So if the people in authority don't know how to relate to you, and you have no central resource, then I think you could get in a lot of trouble, or you go down a path that is really not productive. You kind of spiral out of control, and it's easy to do, especially when you're young. Maybe your family doesn't support you. You don't, you're not getting along at work. You have no one to talk to. I can see that as being very difficult.
Yeah,
Very, yeah.
absolutely. So this is a really short and sweet interview. So this is my portion where I ask you, do you have any questions of me? Do you have anything you want to add to this? If not, it's fine, but just want to give you some space to.
Yeah, I'm just curious, Anthony. I mean, in your line of work, I mean, why don't we have something, and why hasn't it been raised earlier?
Well, I get many different so initially I came into this with that question. It's like I just don't understand, right? I grew up here my whole life. And so this was more of an exploratory, like, let's figure this out together kind of a thing.
Right.
And from what I'm hearing, people that are in local government, it's like this is a new thing, and they were, they're being exposed to it, so they're learning. So this is just not a part of their world, and they're just learning it, and they're trying to catch up. Then there's the other, thought is, well, we have New York right there, or we have Rockland County right over there. So there's this thinking we have these resources we just don't have in our backyard, and we don't need it here. Which is my response is, what good is in New York or Rockland County when I want services here? They're not going to tell me where the doctors are in Bergen County. They're not going to tell me what the resources are in where am I going to get a dentist or a gynecologist? They're not going to know that information for me. So it's good to have some sort of resources that, I can go. But then also, I'm not a man, I'm a man of privilege, where there are people who don't have even bus passes, or they're worried about food, or the perception of the LGBT community is that of privilege, and because we don't have children, we don't get married, so we accumulate this wealth. That's not the reality. That is not the truth. We
Right.
have large disparity for undereducated, because kids can't go through school while being bullied, so they leave. You have lots of people who have addiction and mental health issues, because the world is generally against you, certainly from our generation. So the realities and what is being perceived are very different. So I guess I hope that answered your question. It's lots of
Yeah,
people.
no, it does. And quite frankly, it reminds me of a situation that I was in at work. We had somebody that worked for us for a good number of years, and they lived in New Jersey. And we decided for a work event celebration, we would go into the city. And when I approached her and said, "Oh, we're going to the city," she said, "I've never been." And I said, "You live across the river. How can you not go?" She says, I don't know. I'm just kind of scared of going into the city, and my family doesn't go into the city. So yes, we live right across the river, but the fact of the matter is, there are probably a lot of New Jerseyans that this is their local place. This is their where their family is, where they grew up. So there are some people I realize that don't really want to cross that river, and it is kind of scary for them.
Yeah,
So if they're in the LGBT community, I mean, the fact is that's exponentially more difficult. One, because of transportation and cost, and also you get in that city, it's you don't know how to navigate it, and who you're around. It can be dangerous. So um, I think having local resources is, in some form, is going to be very important.
yeah. And to your point, it's if the statistics are saying that it's like 5 to 6% of the population's LGBT. We know that's a very conservative number, but let's
Right.
go with that number. And not all of us, we do suffer a lot of poverty and addictions and all that. We always have higher numbers, the LGBT, but still, we're looking at of Bergen County, a population of just shy of 1 million people. That's it's hundreds of thousands of people in this county that are paying taxes, that own homes, that are, that are thriving members of the community, and we don't have a safety net. And we don't even have a physical space saying, this is your space where you can be without being harassed, or you can just exist. And I think that's really unfair. And I'm not sure who to blame, but I'm just saying, I think that's really sad and unfair to our community not to have that, you know?
Right. Well, I think the ripple effects of that, and not having that anchor in place to be moored, get grounded, get information, be around people that understand you on a very visceral level. I think the implications or ripple of that in the whole county are probably greater than we think or
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So before we end this, I just wanted to say personally, thank you. But thank you also for being the person you are, because you're so vital to the community. The fact that you live your life openly with a husband, raising children, you still know there are kids in the closet thinking that they're living a life of sin, and they have no conception that they can have an open life, that there is happiness, that's open to them. And just by your mere presence being there,
Yeah.
it does so like immense good to the community. You know what I mean?
I
So
do. I appreciate that. I mean, I do remember my younger years where I didn't ever think I could love somebody or be loved, and certainly not married, and absolutely not have children. And so there was a lot of negatives to something that I did not choose, and that I knew I just was. That was the way I was, and so I came to understand that through a lot of other mentors and people that supported me, and so I became the person I am. So
yeah, and thank God for that, because it's beautiful and so needed in our community. So thank you for that.
well, you do good work, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that you're aware that this is being recorded, and
Mhm.
that at some point I plan to make it public, and you will have access to this webpage as soon as I download it. At any given time, you can look at it. Do you give consent to this?
Absolutely.
And if you want this to be to be taken out at any given time for no reason or any reason, just let me know. I'll do so just within reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
And do you feel comfortable with everything I was talked about here? You feel
Absolutely.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really
You bet.
appreciate this. I'm
Thanks.
gonna end this recording.
Okay.